The screen fades in from darkness. You hear a heartbeat, slow and deliberate, echoing in the silence. A shadowed figure stands at the edge of a cliff, wind whipping through their hair, hesitation written across their face. You've always doubted yourself. A voice whispers, deep and urgent. But what if the only thing standing between you and greatness is fear? A sudden gust propels you forward, your vision blurring, heart pounding, as the world seems to tilt and stretch. You take a step, and then another. This is the moment where hesitation dies and the spark of confidence ignites. This is your journey. You wake before dawn. The world outside is quiet, almost indifferent. The sky is a slate of gray, the first faint light touching the edges of buildings that seem to lean in, silently judging you. You move to the bathroom, and there it is, the mirror. Cold, unflinching, and relentless. You stare at your reflection, and for the 100th time, you wonder, am I enough? Your eyes trace the lines that mark long nights of worry, of striving, of trying to fit yourself into spaces that weren't built for you. The mirror doesn't lie. It only reflects what you carry inside, and what you carry is doubt. A heavy, familiar shadow that has followed you for as long as you can remember, whispering, not yet, not now, not you. You remember the countless times hesitation held you back, the job you didn't apply for, the meeting where you stayed silent, the idea you didn't share. Each choice was a small fracture in your confidence, and now, standing here, the cracks feel larger than ever. And yet, there is a spark, a whisper beneath the shadow. What if there's a way to break free? The journey begins with recognition. Doubt isn't a failing, it's a signal. In the pages of the Confidence Code, Katty K and Claire Shipman reveal that confidence isn't an innate trait reserved for the chosen few. It's a skill, a muscle that grows when you take action, when you step into uncertainty, and when you allow yourself to fail. But first, you must look at the truth. The mirror becomes more than glass. It becomes a stage, a courtroom, a confessional. You confront yourself in a way that is raw and unsettling. Scenes flash in your mind like a montage. The times you stayed quiet when you wanted to speak. The times you avoided the challenge because you feared the outcome. The endless comparison to others who seemed braver, smarter, more prepared. You feel each one like a weight pressing against your chest. And then the question surfaces, why have I let doubt define me for so long? The bathroom fades into the background as memories take over. You see yourself in the office, waiting for someone else to validate your idea, your input. You hear the echo of that inner critic saying, you're not ready, you're not enough. You feel your hands clench, the frustration of unrealized potential coursing through your veins. The camera of your mind pans across your life, the missed opportunities, the invisible ceilings, the silent retreats into comfort zones. Every hesitation, every pause, every I can't feels magnified. But then a shift. You remember a quote from the book, confidence is the result of action, not the prerequisite. The words reverberate like a bell inside you, shaking loose the dust of old beliefs. Action before perfection, movement before certainty. The realization hits you. For years, you've waited to feel ready, but readiness is a mirage. Confidence isn't something you find, it's something you grow. You begin to picture yourself differently, not as the person shackled by fear, but as someone capable, resilient, daring. You imagine stepping into a room, your voice carrying, your ideas landing, your presence commanding attention not because you're flawless, but because you show up. Your reflection begins to shift, not in the mirror, but in your mind. You see potential instead of hesitation. You see possibility instead of fear. The morning sun begins to stretch across the horizon, a cinematic light spilling into your room, casting shadows that slowly retreat. You reach out and touch the mirror. It feels colder than ever, yet somehow familiar. The reflection smiles, faintly, tentatively, but it is yours. And for the first time in a long time, you feel a surge of something unfamiliar, something powerful, hope. But hope alone is not enough. You know the change requires confrontation, courage, and persistence. The authors stress that self-awareness is only the first step. The next is action, the next is daring, and the next is refusing to let the world or yourself dictate the limits of what you can achieve. You take a deep breath, and for the first time, you articulate it aloud. I am capable. I am worthy. I can grow. The words are awkward at first, like muscles you haven't exercised in years, but each repetition builds momentum. The room seems to breathe with you, the walls pulsing with possibility. The mirror no longer feels like an enemy. It feels like a partner, a witness, a starting line. Suddenly, a memory crashes forward. You're back in school, hands trembling as you raised your voice to answer a question, only to be met with laughter. You're in a meeting years later, idea in hand, swallowed by the fear of judgment. You're at a family dinner, silent when you wanted to speak. All these moments converge in a montage of cinematic tension, the soundtrack swelling with the heartbeat of missed chances. And yet, you realize something profound. Each moment of hesitation wasn't a failure. It was preparation. Each fear, each misstep, each self-imposed limitation has honed you, sharpened your awareness, and primed you for this very moment. The doubt, once a chain, is now the fuel. You are learning to wield it. You pause. The mirror reflects not only your face, but the journey within. You see the struggle, the courage, and the latent power waiting to be unleashed. And in that reflection, you catch the first glimpse of transformation. Confidence is not a destination, it is a path, and it begins here with one act of recognition, one step into discomfort, one small refusal to be ruled by fear. The chapter ends with you standing taller, heart pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. You know the road ahead is treacherous, filled with moments of self-doubt that will try to reclaim their hold. But for the first time, you feel ready to confront them. The camera pulls back, leaving you in the frame, the mirror catching the morning light, your eyes fixed on the horizon. And then a whisper, almost imperceptible. This is only the beginning. You take one last look at your reflection, and the scene fades to black. But the echo lingers, pulling you toward the next step. The voices that have shaped your world, the external pressures that have tried to define you. The question hangs: who will you listen to, and who will you choose to become? Have you ever noticed how many voices whisper inside your head, not just your own, but hundreds of others echoing from years past, shaping what you believe you can or cannot do? You feel them in the back of your mind, and the quick hesitation before you speak, and the pause before you act. Sometimes they sound like your parents, your teachers, your colleagues, even strangers. Sometimes they sound like you. You walk through the city streets, headphones in, the hum of life around you, but the noise doesn't drown out the inner chorus. You hear judgment, advice, critique, expectation. Every step feels like it carries a weight you never chose. You can't do that. Not smart enough. Who do you think you are? The voices aren't loud. They are subtle, insidious, insistent, and somehow, over time, they became the script of your life. Katie Kay and Claire Shipman explain that the voices that shape us are often external cultural norms, societal expectations, gendered pressures, family beliefs, but they are absorbed so deeply that they feel like your own. Confidence doesn't grow in a vacuum. It grows in a space where you learn to distinguish the voices that matter from the ones that seek to limit you. You enter a meeting, and it happens again. Your idea is brilliant, but before it even leaves your mouth, a familiar voice inside says, "Better not. Wait your turn. Don't draw attention." You hesitate. You shrink. You retreat into the corner of your mind, safe from judgment. The camera pans across the room, colleagues nodding, voices bouncing, opportunities passing like trains you can't quite catch. And in that moment, you feel it, the subtle pain of self-doubt, reinforced by every external whisper that told you who you should be. The cinematic truth hits you. These voices are not facts. They are inherited patterns, habits of thought, echoes of others' fears projected onto you. You see yourself in flashbacks, a teacher scolding you for speaking up, a parent reminding you to be modest, a friend dismissing your dreams as unrealistic. Each echo reinforces the idea that you must shrink to fit, must silence your ambition to avoid disapproval. And yet, deep down, another voice fights to be heard, a quiet, defiant murmur. I don't have to listen to them. You pause on a park bench. The city is alive around you, the noise of life, of people moving forward, daring, failing, succeeding. You close your eyes and breathe. You start to name the voices, the ones that motivate, the ones that protect, and the ones that limit. Katty and Claire Shipman remind you that confidence comes from choosing whose voices you let shape your decisions. The process is subtle, it's slow, it is revolutionary, and then it becomes personal. You remember the times you ignored your instincts because someone else's opinion mattered more, the job you didn't apply for because a mentor doubted you, the conversation you didn't start because a colleague scoffed, the passion you abandoned because the world whispered, not for you. Each memory hits like a wave, and you feel the tension build in your chest. But this is the turning point: awareness. Recognition of the pattern is the first act of liberation. You walk past a school playground. Children are shouting, climbing, daring. They move with abandon because no voice yet tells them they can't. You remember that once you moved the same way, bold, untethered, unafraid. Somewhere along the way, those voices layered themselves over your natural instincts, turning courage into caution. You realize you've been carrying them all these years, heavy, invisible, shaping the way you move through the world. In the cafe, a barista calls out your order, and you almost flinch. The smallest interaction triggers the echoes of judgment. Say it right, be polite, don't be too loud. Your heartbeat rises. You notice the pattern in yourself? Hesitation has become second nature, a reflex you didn't choose. And yet, you also notice the possibility for change, because recognition precedes action. Awareness is the spark. The authors suggest a practice one you start here, now. For every voice you hear, you pause, label it, and decide, is this voice helping me grow or holding me back? You begin to notice the ones that are protective but limiting, the ones that are internalized criticisms, the ones that stem from fear rather than reality. You start reclaiming your agency. You are no longer a passive listener. You are learning to edit the soundtrack of your life. The sun dips low, casting long shadows across the city streets. You are walking home, the air crisp, the weight of the day heavy yet charged. In cinematic sequences, voices echo around you, some fading, some still sharp, and in your mind, you begin to speak your own voice louder than any other. I will define my own limits. I will act despite fear. I will claim my voice. The mantra feels strange at first, almost awkward, but each repetition strengthens you. You are stepping into the truth that confidence is built when you actively choose which voices to heed and which to silence. A memory surfaces again this time, a victory, a moment when you ignored the chorus of doubt and acted anyway. Perhaps it was small, a conversation initiated, an idea shared, a challenge faced, and yet the impact was seismic. You realize that every act of courage, no matter how minor, creates a fracture in the walls built by limiting voices. Confidence grows in the cracks, in the space carved out by daring to choose yourself. You reach your apartment and stand by the window, looking at the city lights flickering against the dark sky. The wind brushes your face, as if nature itself urges you forward. You are quiet, listening not to the world, not to the echoes, but to your own heartbeat. Steady, insistent, you are beginning to understand the power of agency. The voices are still there, but now you are learning to decide which ones deserve space and which must be silenced. Katty and Claire Shipman remind us, confidence is built when you act despite fear, not after fear disappears. You feel the truth of it in your bones. The world is full of expectations, judgments, and opinions, but the ultimate choice of who you become is yours. You are learning to tune the external noise, amplify your own voice, and step into a version of yourself that is stronger, bolder, unshakable. But as the night deepens, you sense the next challenge looming. It's not enough to recognize the voices. Recognition must be followed by action, or the whispers of doubt will return, louder than ever. Tomorrow will bring the opportunity to confront fear in the arena decisions that will test whether you can truly embody the confidence you are beginning to claim. You take a final breath, feeling the weight of your own presence. The city stretches endlessly beyond the window, full of stories of courage and hesitation, triumph and regret. And within that vast expanse, you are carving your path, one choice at a time. The voices are many, but the one that matters most is yours. Have you ever felt the invisible hand of perfection pressing against your chest, tightening with every breath? It is quiet at first, almost imperceptible like a whisper in the back of your mind. It must be flawless. You cannot fail. Not now. Not ever. And then suddenly, it becomes unbearable, a weight you carry everywhere, shaping every move, every decision, every word. You sit at your desk, staring at the blank screen. A project, a presentation, a proposal, something important, something that matters. But your fingers freeze above the keyboard. You imagine it perfect in your mind, a flawless product, a masterpiece without a single flaw. The thought paralyzes you. Each passing second adds invisible chains. You tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow. I need more time. It's not good enough. And in that pause, opportunity slips through your fingers. Katty K and Claire Shipman call it the perfection trap. You are not alone. Confidence is often suffocated by the impossible standards we set for ourselves. The fear of imperfection stops you from taking risks, from speaking, from daring. You realize it isn't the world judging you, it's you judging yourself, harshly, relentlessly, without mercy. The office lights flicker overhead as the hours tick by. You recall past moments, cinematic flashes of ambition stalled, the time you hesitated to pitch your idea because it wasn't fully formed, the time you stayed silent in a meeting because your thoughts weren't polished, the time you avoided a challenge because it felt too big, too imperfect. Each memory presses on you like a weight, a montage of hesitation and restraint. And yet, deep down, there is a flicker, a spark of recognition. You remember a line from the book. Perfectionism is often disguised as diligence, but it is really fear. The words reverberate through you. Fear dressed as meticulousness, hesitation disguised as preparation. You are trapped in a cycle of waiting to be ready, waiting to be worthy, waiting to be perfect. But perfection is a horizon that moves farther away with every step. You step outside. The city stretches before you, lights twinkling, people moving with purpose. Some stumble, some fail, some leap without hesitation. The contrast hits you like a wave. They move forward despite imperfection, while you have been frozen by it, and the realization cuts deep. Perfection has been your cage, your silent thief of courage. You walk through the park, the wind brushing your face, your thoughts racing. You start to question, who decided perfection was necessary? Who set these standards that weigh me down? Memories surface of teachers praising only flawless work, parents reminding you to always aim for the top, friends silently comparing achievements. Each voice, once meant to guide, now feels like a chain around your neck. Then, a cinematic shift. You remember a small act of imperfection that changed everything. Perhaps it was a presentation delivered with rough edges, an idea shared without refinement, a risk taken without guarantee of success. And yet, the impact was real. People responded, ideas sparked, doors opened. You begin to see the truth. Action outweighs flawlessness. Bravery outweighs hesitation. Confidence grows emotion, not in stasis. The evening deepens, shadows lengthen, and you are struck by the realization that perfection is a mirage, a thief of opportunity. You feel the tension in your chest, the internal struggle between wanting to do it flawlessly and wanting to move at all. You close your eyes, inhale, and repeat to yourself, Done is better than perfect. Courage beats hesitation. The words feel awkward but electric, a spark igniting in your chest. Suddenly, your mind flashes to someone else, a mentor, a colleague, a friend who always seemed to act decisively, to speak boldly, to move without hesitation. You realize they were not flawless. They were simply willing to risk imperfection. And here lies the truth Kay and Shipman emphasize. Confidence grows not from avoiding mistakes, but from daring to act in spite of them. Your apartment feels smaller, constricting, as the weight of all the shoulds and musts presses down. You walk to the window, looking out over the city, imagining every person moving forward despite fear, despite error, despite imperfection. And you wonder, what if I allowed myself to move too? What if I embraced imperfection as part of the process? The cinematic tension builds. You visualize the coming days as a series of tests, presentations delivered rough around the edges, conversations started without full preparation, ideas shared with raw honesty. The fear of judgment rises. Your heartbeat echoes. The internal voice screams, but beneath it, another voice begins to grow. Quiet at first, then stronger. I can act. I can begin. I can move forward. You remember another line from the book. Confidence is the result of action, not the prerequisite. The clarity hits you like a drumbeat. You have been waiting for readiness, waiting for perfect conditions, waiting to feel enough. But the truth is, confidence will only come as you act imperfectly, boldly, repeatedly. Each step forward chips away at the weight. Each act of courage lightens the burden. The night grows still, and you are left with a choice. Continue carrying the invisible chains of perfection, or step into action despite them. You feel the familiar ache of doubt, but also a thrill of possibility. The mirror of yesterday's reflection seems closer now, not judging, not cold, but waiting for you to bring action into alignment with your newfound awareness. A soft wind brushes the curtains, carrying with it a whisper of encouragement. Start. Begin. Move. You take a deep breath, feeling the tension in your chest loosen ever so slightly. The city lights flicker, casting shadows and illuminating paths not yet taken. And in that quiet, cinematic moment, you feel the first stirrings of liberation. Imperfection is not your enemy. It is the terrain of growth. But the journey is far from over. If perfection was the cage, fear is the next barrier. Action will test you, risk will challenge you, and courage will demand more than you have given before. The horizon stretches infinitely, cinematic in its vastness, full of trials, lessons, and transformation. You close your laptop. The screen goes dark. Your reflection lingers in the window, uncertain yet daring. And then the thought arrives, almost unbidden. What comes after action? What comes after daring? Have you ever felt your heart seize before a single step, your breath catch before speaking, your palms sweat before a decision? That tremor is fear, not the fear of monsters or danger, but the fear that whispers in every quiet moment, you're not ready. You will fail. You are not enough. You wake to that familiar pulse, the tightness in your chest, as if the world itself is holding its breath, waiting to see if you'll rise or retreat. The day stretches ahead, full of opportunities disguised as threats. You know the feeling well, the panic before a presentation, the hesitation before asking the question, the paralysis before taking a leap that could change everything. Fear is intimate. It knows you. It knows your limits, or at least the ones you have believed in. Katty Kay and Claire Shipman describe fear not as an enemy to be vanquished, but as a signal. It is the body's alarm system, a biological rhythm warning you that something matters. But in your life, fear has been amplified, distorted, keeping you small, cautious, hesitant. You are about to explore it, dissect it, and reclaim power from it. You step outside, the morning air crisp, sunlight diffused through a veil of clouds. You walk through the streets, each step echoing. With every heartbeat, you feel the subtle tremor of anxiety, a tension you've carried for years. You remember the meetings where your ideas stayed locked in your mind because fear of judgment was louder than the desire to speak. You recall the relationships you avoided, the challenges you shunned, the risks left unclaimed. Fear has been a silent puppeteer, and now you want to pull back the strings. Your mind begins to trace the mechanics of it. Fear manifests in your body first, the tightness in your chest, the acceleration of your heart, the shallow breath, the sweaty hands, the restless energy. Katie K. and Claire Shipman emphasize that recognizing fear physically is the first step toward mastery. It is tangible, measurable, undeniable. You feel it now, coursing through you, but you are learning to observe it instead of surrendering to it. The cinematic tension builds as you visualize yourself standing before a moment that has haunted you. The stage, the room full of eyes, the moment when you must speak. Your throat tightens, your legs feel like stone, and for a heartbeat, the instinct is to flee. But you don't. Instead, you notice the fear as if it were a character in the room beside you, a shadow with a shape, a rhythm, a presence you can acknowledge. You take a slow breath, your chest rising, your mind centering. You start to label the fear. This is not a judgment of me. It is a signal that this moment matters. This is energy. This is life moving through me. The words are awkward, but they begin to shift the landscape of your body and mind. The tension that once immobilized you now feels like a current waiting to be harnessed. Flashbacks swirl in cinematic montages. The times you hesitated, the chances you left untouched, the potential you ignored. Fear was there, in every silent pause, in every avoided conversation, in every unrealized dream. But now you begin to see the pattern. Fear is not your enemy. It is information. It is the body telling you that growth lies ahead, that courage is required, that action will demand more than comfort. A scene unfolds. You are standing at a cliff edge, the wind whipping around you, the ocean crashing below. The camera of your mind pans across the waves, the endless horizon, the vast unknown. The instinct is to step back, to retreat, to tell yourself it's too dangerous, too uncertain, too risky. And yet, there is another voice, growing stronger, echoing through the tension. This is where courage is born. You take a tentative step forward, the wind lashing your face, heart racing in tandem with the pounding surf. Every fiber of your body screams hesitation, every cell wired for retreat, but you keep moving. You feel fear not as a limitation, but as a companion, a rhythm to sync with rather than a barrier to avoid. The scene expands, cinematic in scope, clouds shifting, light breaking through, the horizon opening. You are alive, fully present, confronting the pulse of fear. Katty K and Claire Shipman remind you that confidence is not the absence of fear, it is acting in spite of it. You feel the resonance of that truth in your veins. The past fears, the ones that have held you silent, invisible, cautious, are not erasing you. They are data, teaching you where you are most alive, where the stakes are real, and where your courage is waiting. You walk through a crowded street, the pulse of life all around. Every interaction becomes a test of this principle. The conversation you start despite hesitation, the idea you voice despite judgment, the risk you take despite uncertainty. Fear is present, yes, but no longer paralyzing. You notice the physical signs, the breath, the pulse, the quiver, and meet them with awareness, grounding yourself in motion. Evening falls. The city lights flicker like a constellation of possibilities. You sit on a rooftop, looking out over the sprawl of human ambition, creativity, and courage. Fear is still there, whispering, murmuring, nudging you to retreat. But you have learned its anatomy, the tight chest, the racing pulse, the hesitation. You recognize it, name it, and transform it. You feel a new rhythm, the cadence of courage weaving through the fear, shaping it into propulsion rather than paralysis. A memory surfaces, a past moment of victory in spite of fear. Perhaps it was a conversation, an act of creation, a risk taken, a challenge embraced, and you realize that each victory, however small, is proof. Fear does not vanish with inaction. It diminishes with action. Every step taken against it reinforces your capacity to move forward, to speak, to dare. The night grows deep, and you feel the cinematic tension of the journey expanding. Fear is no longer a vague, faceless enemy. It is a force tangible and powerful, and you have begun to wield it. You are standing at the edge of transformation, the horizon stretching infinitely, full of unknown challenges that will continue to test your courage. And yet, you sense the next stage waiting. Almost imperceptibly, it is not enough to recognize fear or to act once. Confidence is forged in repeated confrontation and the daily choice to move forward despite the tremor in your chest. The next chapter looms, cinematic in its anticipation, understanding the paradox of confidence, the truth that you can act even before you feel ready, and that daring is the currency of transformation. You rise feeling the night air on your face, the pulse of fear tempered by the rhythm of courage. The city sprawls beneath you, vast, indifferent, full of challenge and opportunity, and you know this. The anatomy of fear has been revealed, and you have begun to claim it. The question now lingers, cinematic in scope. Will you act boldly enough to turn recognition into transformation? Have you ever paused at the edge of possibility and asked yourself, do I wait until I feel ready, or do I leap anyway? That moment when hesitation and opportunity collide is the heart of the paradox. Confidence, you discover, is not a feeling that precedes action. It is born in the act of daring, in the courage to move forward while your heartbeat shakes and your hands tremble. You sit at your desk once more, the city lights spilling through the window, casting long, trembling shadows across the room. An idea burns inside you, urgent, alive, yet incomplete, imperfect, and terrifying in its vulnerability. You hesitate. The inner voice, the one that knows all your fears, whispers, not now, not ready. Wait until you are perfect. But another quieter voice nudges. Action creates confidence. Step anyway. Katty K and Claire Shipman call this the confidence paradox. Waiting to feel ready is the enemy of growth. True courage, true power, comes from acting first, learning through doing, and letting confidence emerge as a byproduct of daring. You feel it now, a trembling mixture of excitement and terror. The paradox is not abstract. It is alive, thrumming through your veins. The scene unfolds. You imagine a conference room, buzzing with anticipation. All eyes will be on you, waiting for your words, your ideas, your presence. You picture the moment you begin, your voice quivering, your mind racing. And yet, despite the fear, you speak. Each syllable is imperfect, each sentence uneven, yet each word carries weight. The room listens. You feel the paradox take shape, confidence growing in real time, forged in action, unpolished but undeniable. The camera of your mind zooms out, replaying your life like a montage. The opportunities you hesitated on, the risks you postponed, the conversations you avoided. In every frame, you see the same pattern: waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel worthy, waiting to feel worthy, waiting for a perfection that never came. And now, for the first time, you see a new path. Leap, act, move, confidence will follow. You take a breath, cinematic and deep, and notice how your body responds. The tension in your chest is still there, the rapid pulse of fear still present, but your muscles are coiled with possibility, your mind alert, your senses alive. The paradox is real. You act, you feel fear, you feel uncertainty, yet confidence is growing beneath the surface, an invisible tide lifting you forward. You remember a moment from your past, a time you spoke before you were ready, took a risk before it felt safe, stepped into a situation without guarantees. The memory is electric. You recall the exhilaration, the surprise of capability, the subtle thrill of discovery. You had felt unprepared, yet you had acted anyway, and in doing so, Confidence was born. The paradox crystallizes in your mind. Readiness is the illusion. Action is the truth. The city beyond your window is alive, full of motion, full of risk takers. You see people moving forward despite imperfection, despite doubt, despite fear. You recognize a reflection of yourself in each of them, a mirror of possibility. Every step you take, every decision to speak, every risk you embrace reshapes the narrative inside you. You are no longer waiting, you are acting, and the paradox hums beneath it all. Confidence does not precede action, it emerges because of it. The cinematic tension builds. You imagine a meeting where your voice carries weight, a presentation delivered with trembling hands but undeniable presence. You picture taking the first step toward a goal you've avoided, initiating a conversation you feared, sharing an idea you've hidden. Each scenario pulses with possibility and terror in equal measure. And yet, action begins to dissolve fear. Each choice chips away at doubt. Each motion against hesitation strengthens the muscle of courage. Katty K and Claire Shipman stress that this is the fundamental lesson. Confidence is a skill, built moment by moment, choice by choice. You feel the gravity of that truth as if it were physical. Your muscles remember courage through repetition. Your mind internalizes bravery through practice, and your spirit grows stronger with each act. Waiting for certainty has been your habit. Now you are learning to move first and let confidence catch up. You step outside into the night, the city quiet, the air sharp and electric. You walk past the familiar streets, each step a meditation, each breath a pulse of defiance. You recall every moment fear whispered, "You're not ready," and you reply with action, "I move anyway." The paradox hums through your body. You feel it, the strange, thrilling tension of acting before you feel ready, of daring before certainty, of creating confidence while fear still resides in your chest. The montage of your life plays in your mind's eye. Small victories, hesitant first steps, daring leaps, each one imperfect, each one courageous. You feel a swell of empowerment. The paradox is not just a lesson, it is a revelation. Confidence is not a state to be reached, it is a process to be lived. It is born in the doing, forged in movement, strengthened by experience. And then you see the horizon stretch before you, cinematic in its scope. Opportunities loom, intimidating, uncertain, magnificent. Each challenge ahead demands the paradox. Act before ready, step before certain, dare before fearless. You feel the electricity of possibility. The fear is still present, but it has a new rhythm, now a rhythm aligned with courage. You hear a whisper, almost imperceptible, but urgent. The moment is now. Step forward. Begin. You feel the truth resonate. The confidence paradox is the gateway. You cannot wait to feel brave, perfect, or ready. Bravery is discovered in the leap, imperfection is embraced in the action, and confidence grows in the space where fear meets motion. But the journey is far from complete. Action alone will not be enough. Fear will return. Self-doubt will challenge. Hesitation will tempt. The paradox continues to stretch ahead, deeper, wider, more demanding. The next chapter is already calling, cinematic in its intensity. You will confront the arenas that demand courage, the moments where hesitation could still dominate, and you will discover how to harness resilience to act consistently. You take a deep breath, cinematic and deliberate, standing on the precipice of transformation. The city sprawls endlessly beneath you, full of opportunities and unknowns. The paradox pulses through your veins, a rhythm of motion and courage. And you know this, confidence is not found, it is forged. Have you ever sat in a room, your chest tight, your mind buzzing, words perched on your tongue, yet you remain silent? What would happen if, right now, you spoke truly, spoke without fear, without hesitation, without waiting for permission? That moment, suspended between quiet and voice, is where courage is born. You enter the meeting room. The fluorescent lights hum overhead, sterile and demanding. Colleagues murmur, the air thick with expectation. Your idea has been brewing, alive in your mind for days, weeks, months. But the familiar shadow rises. Wait, you're not ready. Someone else will do it better. Your throat tightens. Fingers flex nervously against the edge of the table. Silence has been your default, your safety net, your invisible barrier between fear and action. Katie Kay and Claire Shipman describe this paralysis, the tendency to shrink, to defer, to let your voice remain unheard. Confidence is not just internal, it is expressed outwardly in the courage to speak, to act, to be seen. And now, for the first time, you feel the weight of what silence has cost you. Opportunities unclaimed, ideas ignored, impact unrealized. The room feels larger than life, a cinematic arena where every glance, every nod, every tick of the clock feels magnified. You imagine the past, classrooms where your questions went unasked, meetings where your suggestions were swallowed by hesitation, family dinners where your opinions went unvoiced. Each instance was a rehearsal for this moment. And now the past collides with the present, urging you forward. You take a breath. It shakes slightly, but it is deliberate. Grounding, the authors remind you, confidence is built in action, not in waiting. Every time you speak despite fear, you grow. Every time you act despite hesitation, you reclaim power. Your internal dialogue begins to shift. I can speak. I have ideas. My voice matters. The mantra feels awkward but alive, a pulse of courage surging through you. The tension tightens as a colleague begins speaking, their voice smooth, confident. You feel the urge to retreat, to shrink back into invisibility, but the paradox has been etched into you. Action breeds confidence. You must act first, or the moment will slip. You raise your hand, slowly at first. Then, with deliberate intent, eyes turn towards you. Breath catches. The world seems to pause. You speak, not perfectly, not flawlessly, not rehearsed, just words, raw and alive, carrying your thoughts, your perspective, your presence. The room reacts, some nod, some frown, some lean forward, curious, and in that response, small but tangible, something shifts inside. Confidence, once a distant concept, pulses in real time. Your voice is no longer trapped. It is a force moving through the space. You remember a memory, a moment long past when silence had dominated. Perhaps it was a meeting, a class, a group project. You had hesitated and the opportunity had vanished. You feel a pang of regret, but also clarity. The difference now is movement. You have broken the pattern. The silence is fractured. And in the fracture, light enters. The cinematic montage unfolds. You walking through offices, classrooms, streets, cafes, each space a stage, each interaction a chance to speak, to be seen, to act. Fear is still present, whispering, maybe wait, maybe step back. But your action, your choice to break the silence, grows louder, overriding the whispers. You feel yourself expanding, your presence tangible, your ideas impactful. Katty Kay and Claire Shipman emphasize that confidence is not quiet, it is expressed. It is claiming space, asserting ideas, owning your perspective. You feel the resonance of that principle as your heartbeat syncs with the rhythm of action. Every time you speak, despite fear, your voice grows stronger, your presence more undeniable. Evening descends. The city outside hums, alive with conversations, decisions, movement. You are walking home, reflecting. Silence had been your cage, but action is the key. You remember another line from the book. Confidence is often most visible, not in victories, but in the moments we dare to speak when we could remain unseen. You feel the truth of it in your bones. The cinematic tension builds as you prepare for tomorrow, knowing it will demand more. The small victories of today, raising your hand, speaking up, breaking silence, are only the beginning. The world will challenge you again, in bigger arenas, with higher stakes, and each time the choice will be yours, retreat or act. A memory surfaces, a past opportunity lost because you stayed quiet. You feel the pang again, sharper this time, but it is tempered with resolve. You understand now silence is optional, voice is power, action is courage, and each choice you make to speak, to act, to be seen, fuels the next step of transformation. You arrive at your apartment. The door closes behind you. The cityscape framed in the window. You stand there, cinematic in silhouette, knowing that the journey has only begun. The next challenge is not just to speak once, but to sustain courage, to act consistently, to move forward despite fear, doubt, or hesitation. The next chapter waits. Stories of the bold, lessons from those who dared when silence would have been easier, the inspiration and mentorship that will illuminate your path forward. The wind brushes past, carrying a whisper. You have spoken once. Will you speak again? Will you act again? You take a breath, cinematic, deliberate, filled with anticipation. Silence has been broken. Your voice has been reclaimed. But the journey is far from over. The horizon stretches, vast, cinematic, full of challenge, growth, and transformation. Have you ever watched someone move through the world with fearless determination and wondered, how do they do it? How do they act so boldly when fear threatens to stop me at every turn? That question pulses in your mind, now, sharper than ever, as you step into the next stage of your journey, learning from those who dared, when hesitation could have been easier. You find yourself walking through the streets of the city, evening lights reflecting off wet pavements, the distant hum of traffic blending with the quiet of your own thoughts. You are alone, yet surrounded by energy, the stories of people who acted despite fear, who leaned into discomfort, who shattered ceilings that others thought impenetrable. You begin to imagine their lives as cinematic montages, audacious acts, small and large, each one a lesson carved in courage. Katty and Claire Shipman insist that confidence is not inherited, it is modeled. You can study it, emulate it, internalize the patterns of those who stepped forward when the stakes were high. You recall the trailblazers, the leaders, the creators, the voices that refused to stay silent. They were not fearless, they were deliberate. They acted in spite of fear, and now you are learning to do the same. Your mind drifts to a boardroom scene. A female executive, eyes sharp, voice unwavering, delivers a bold idea despite skepticism. She falters, yes, stumbles over a word, but she keeps moving. The room listens. You notice something. The courage wasn't in perfection, it was in action. The lesson hits. Confidence grows when you show up, not when you wait for validation. The city fades, replaced by a montage of examples, cinematic and vivid. You see a young scientist presenting groundbreaking research despite ridicule. You see a musician performing an original piece, hands trembling, heart racing. You see an entrepreneur pitching a bold vision to a room full of doubt. In each frame, the pattern is the same: imperfection, fear, uncertainty, but action transforms all of it into presence, influence, and change. You feel the tension in your chest, the weight of your own hesitation pressing against you. You think of every moment you stayed silent, every risk you avoided, every opportunity that slipped past because the courage of action seemed distant. And yet, in studying the bold, you see a roadmap. You realize that the spark of confidence is not magical. It is deliberate, learned, cultivated. A memory surfaces. A mentor once told you, courage is contagious. The words echo now, resonating in the marrow of your bones. You see it in practice. When someone dares, it inspires those around them to act. When you step forward despite fear, others sense the energy, the rhythm of movement, the heartbeat of bravery. Confidence multiplies, not in isolation, but in motion shared and witnessed. The cinematic rhythm intensifies as you move through a metaphorical corridor of past and present lessons. You recall times when a bold act inspired you to act in return, a teacher who pushed boundaries, a friend who confronted fear, a stranger whose determination left an imprint. Each memory is a lesson. Courage is visible, contagious, teachable. You begin to see your own reflection in these examples. If they could act despite fear, so can you. Katty and Claire Shipman emphasize the importance of visible action. Confidence is learned in the arena of risk and presence. The bold do not wait for permission. They claim space, take initiative, and embrace the possibility of error. And now, in your mind's eye, you begin to rehearse moments you will speak, decisions you will take, risks you will embrace. You are practicing courage, cultivating muscle memory for confidence. The tension heightens as you confront an internal narrative. What if I fail? What if I falter? What if they judge me? And then you remember the lesson from the bold. Action itself is the point. Failure is part of growth. Perfection is not required. Your past hesitations fade under the illumination of possibility, and you begin to feel the strange exhilaration of stepping into courage before certainty. Night falls. The city skyline glimmers like a constellation of unclaimed potential. You stand on a rooftop, cinematic in silhouette, feeling the pulse of lives lived boldly all around you, past and present, and you realize confidence is not an innate trait of the few. It is learned in the doing, mirrored in others, and reinforced in your repeated acts of courage. You remember a quote from the book that cuts through the tension. Confidence is built in moments when you act despite fear, when you claim your voice, when you show up imperfectly yet completely. The words are alive. You feel them not just in your mind, but in your posture, in your breath, in your pulse. They are tangible, as real as the city stretching beneath you. And then, cinematic tension crescendos. You see the horizon of your own life expanding. The lessons from the bold are clear. You are not powerless. You are not defined by hesitation. You are not doomed to silence. The next stage of your journey beckons, translating inspiration into your own decisive action. Courage must move from observation to execution, from admiration to embodiment. The wind brushes past, carrying a whisper. They acted. Now it is your turn. You take a deep breath, cinematic and deliberate, feeling the weight of possibilities settle on your shoulders. You feel the rhythm of confidence growing in your chest, not yet complete, but undeniable. Every bold act you witness, every lesson you absorb, is now a blueprint for your own daring. You step back from the edge, the city lights reflecting in your eyes. You know the next challenge will test everything you've learned so far: fear, hesitation, perfectionism, silence. But the examples of the bold pulse in your veins, like electricity, propelling you forward. The question lingers, cinematic and unresolved. Will you act boldly enough to become the person you've been studying, to take the lessons of the fearless and make them your own? Have you ever wondered why some people move through the world with an almost magnetic certainty while others hesitate, falter, and shrink under pressure? Is it talent, luck, charm? Or is there something deeper, something measurable, biological, scientific underpinning the way confidence is born, grows, and persists? You sit alone in your apartment, the hum of the city faint beneath your window, thinking about every hesitation, every pause, every silent moment you've endured. Your chest tightens, a familiar echo of fear. But this time, curiosity mixes with the tension. You are ready to look beneath the surface, to uncover the mechanisms that make confidence real, tangible, alive. Katty and Claire Shipman reveal that confidence is more than a feeling. It is a combination of action, mindset, and biology. Your body remembers courage in your posture. Your brain rewires itself through repeated success and failure. Your hormones respond to presence and assertiveness. Confidence is a living system. And now, you are about to see it in motion. You stand, cinematic and deliberate, and stretch, noticing the way your shoulders relax as you pull them back. Posture, the authors explain, is not trivial. It is a signal sent to your brain, a biochemical affirmation of self-assurance. You recall the countless moments of slouching, of shrinking into yourself, of avoiding eye contact. And now, even the simple act of straightening feels revolutionary, a small rebellion against years of hesitation. You walk through the streets, observing strangers, the rhythm of human interaction pulsing around you. Every confident stride you see, every poised gesture is more than surface. It's physiology in motion. Your mind begins to trace the chain. Posture affects breathing. Breathing regulates focus. Focus influences performance. Confidence is not abstract. It is encoded in your body, waiting to be unlocked. A flashback emerges, cinematic and vivid. You at a critical moment, about to present an idea, pitch a project, speak your truth. Fear was present, palms sweating, heartbeat quickening, but the act of stepping forward straightened your posture, steadied your voice, anchored your presence. The memory hits like a revelation. Science is on your side. Courage is not purely emotional. It is chemical, physical, measurable. You can train it, cultivate it, grow it. Katty K and Claire Shipman emphasize the role of micro actions in rewiring confidence. Every small risk, every slight stretch beyond comfort creates neural pathways that reinforce courage. You feel it now, the accumulation of your tiny victories, and the realization dawns. Confidence is incremental, biological, and infinitely malleable. The cinematic scene shifts. You are in a boardroom, lights bright, eyes focused on you. You inhale deeply, feeling your diaphragm expand, your spine align. Hormones surge subtly, adrenaline, dopamine, endorphins readying you to act decisively. The tension is electric, but you notice the rhythm. Your body is primed, your mind alert, your courage ready to meet action. Your inner monologue intensifies. This is not luck. This is preparation. This is science. I can cultivate it. I can control it. I can grow it. The thought is visceral, energizing. You realize that confidence is not magic, not fate, not reserved for the gifted. It is a system you can learn to operate, a skill as trainable as any muscle in your body. The montage continues. Moments where posture changes the course of a conversation, micro actions shift outcomes, repetition strengthens resolve. You recall the countless missed opportunities, each now reframed as data. Science does not judge, it measures. Each hesitation, each act, each risk is feedback, a signal for recalibration, a blueprint for building resilience. You stand in front of a mirror, cinematic in frame, noticing every detail, the tilt of your chin, the steadiness of your eyes, the tension slowly fading from your shoulders.